Okay, so when we look at curiosity from a workplace point of view, from a learning point of view, we can show that it actually has 4 dimensions. And the first is joyous exploration. That means that you really enjoy finding new information, asking new questions, and meeting new people. But then there's a second dimension, which we call deprivation sensitivity. That means that it really bugs you when you can't find the missing link, when some information is missing. And that drives you to find new information. So it's almost the exact opposite of what we think curiosity is all about. The third dimension is obviously lots of people have lots of new ideas. So you have to interact with them and you have to appreciate what other people came up with when they were looking, when they were using their joyous exploration. So that's why the third dimension is called openness for other people's ideas. And the fourth dimension is something that very rarely is being seen as part of curiosity, but we can prove it is. And that is what we call distress tolerance. You have to be able to deal with the discomfort that comes from seeing new things, not understanding things, complex and mysterious things. And in order to really be able to deal with that, you need distress tolerance. You need to be able to manage your stress or distress. You can say very simple, you say people with very little distress tolerance, they will never ask a new question because they're afraid of the new answer. So there you have it. Curiosity, per definition, consists of 4 dimensions. Oh yeah, definitely. There are lots of interventions that we tested from science, and we tested them really hard in a 6-month trial with 3 very diverse groups. And we can show there are techniques for each and every of the 4 dimensions that you can use in order to strengthen these in an individual or even in a group. For example, you have the question formulation technique that really helps people, no matter if they are joyous exploration types or if they're the type that really wants the missing link. The QFT, so the question formulation technique, helps them to come up with a lot of questions instead of answers in the beginning. What happens in the brain is if you develop a lot of questions, your thinking opens up. And then every brain wants to find the answers. And thus, that is a real kickstart for curious behavior. Oh yeah, curiosity, of course, at its core is about finding out. It's about understanding new things, but that's not the end game. What you're looking at is you're trying to make sense and you try to draw conclusions from the new things. You really try to find out what it's all about. And that is why curiosity is highly linked to conscientiousness. Conscientiousness in English means that how much you really want to understand something. You don't want to just see it and say, oh, cool, that's new, but you want to understand what lies behind it. And for that, sometimes experimenting is correct, and sometimes asking lots of questions is correct. So you form a mental model. And sometimes it's even more important to know why you want to find out about these things. So curiosity is about a lot more than just experimenting. So when you look at a group of people, they all have different kinds of curiosity because it's a personality feature and we all are different. We're different human beings. But what actually transpires is that there is one technique that really holds everybody in a group really almost entranced to find the right solution. And that is, if you start, whatever it is you're teaching, if you start that with a puzzle, a riddle, something that doesn't seem to make sense in the beginning. Because that then allows, when you have all these questions that people can come up with around it, that people with a lot of joyous exploration, they come up with a lot of questions and then suddenly they dry up. They say, I don't have any more. But then people with lots of this, I want to find the missing link attitude, they then take over and say, okay, so what else is there that we can find out? So within a group, each and every person can actually start at their very own point to ask questions and to make it relevant to themselves. And that is how you can get an entire group to really want to find out about a new topic. Now, normally when you look at how to teach people to interact with technology or to come up with technical solutions, you say, well, that's very process-driven and there's not much room for experimenting. Or you say, well, we have all the tools, go and experiment with it. But once again, people are different. So some will and some won't. And there's one colleague in the US, Robert Cialdini, who actually found a way to really help people to stick with it, to stay with it in order to really learn something. And what he did is what I referred to in the question beforehand, and that is he presents a riddle, something that doesn't make sense, something that you cannot answer yourselves right away. And not being able to answer that actually starts a thinking process in every brain to different degrees, but it happens in any kind of brain. It's like, why is that so? For example, why can we have ever more space for storing data on ever smaller devices? How is that possible to get more on less? Or for example, how is it possible that we can have ships sailing against the wind instead of with the wind? So these are riddles, puzzles, things that don't really make sense in the beginning. And then you ask people to come up with a lot of questions. And you'll notice that when it's about technology, there's lots of questions regarding technology, how these things actually fit together, how from a technological point of view it makes sense. So starting with a riddle and then slowly coming to the solution is the didactic that really gets curiosity supercharged for teaching of technology and technological interactions.